Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar event. My name is Joshua. I'm going to be your presenter today. It's 12:30 Eastern Time. We're here to talk about when the church changes banks or decides to set up a new asset or bank account in Church Windows Accounting. Welcome to all of you. Before we get started on our topic, click the little red arrow on the sidebar of your webinar control panel. If you're unfamiliar with this, allows you to minimize the webinar control panel, get it out of the way. Or if you've got a dual monitor set up, just drag that out, the control panel out to your second desktop just to get it out of the way. Just again, gives you a better visual participation in the presentation here. We are recording today's webinar event. I think we've got this out on there from an older version of the software, but we'll have the new one out here sometime in the next 24 hours or so on there if you'd like to revisit this topic. All right. If you have questions, please type those into the questions portion of the webinar control panel. I will do my best to keep an eye on those and get those questions repeated so everyone understands what's being asked and see what we can do to get those questions answered. I simply ask that you do keep the questions on topic, meaning on our topic that we're discussing today. If you have questions about other parts of Church Windows, please contact us through our support line, 800-533-5227, or email us through support. Or perhaps a future webinar event will be better set up or equipped to answer the questions you have, about the software. Our technicians are available and happy to help, of course. We're going to be here till 10 minutes till 1 Eastern Time here. This is not a terribly long topic, folks. We may finish up a little early. Okay, there is a handout for the webinar event today. So if you click the control panel, click the little plus sign next to the handouts, you'll be able to see that on, attached to the webinar control panel there, or I believe it's out on our support center page too. It's actually on, I think the link is also on the free online webinars or training webinars page on our website too. So all kinds of places you can get the printed material that I am using for the basis of the webinar presentation today. Okay. Thank you so much for attending in advance. We appreciate you being here with us. So basically, churches will, as anybody will, from time to time, decide that they want to open a new bank account or open a new asset for whatever reason that may be. Whether you're unhappy with the current bank that you're working with, or, there's been, some fraudulent activity or theft on your accounts and that, you're wanting to shut it down and open up a new account. There's a myriad of reasons why a new account may need to be set up and added to the chart of accounts. Okay, so we're going to go through the most of the things, if not all the things, that we would definitely recommend that you do and check and change in the software to support where that new account might be needed or come into play. Okay, so as the document points out at the very step 1 there, it talks about adding the new asset. So when we come into our accounting here, we can, of course, add accounts in a couple of different ways. We could go up to Manage Accounts here in the upper left corner, and then right below that, Accounts plus minus. Let me get out my highlighter here, steer some focus. Right up here, Accounts plus minus. All right, so then when we click on the Accounts plus minus, then the items change below that. And, of course, in the upper left corner, we have the option called Asset. Okay? So we're going to click on Asset, and that allows us to open that up and add a new asset. It shows our existing assets. Another way to add the accounts is to go into Manage Accounts or Manage Accounts in View to open up our actual chart of accounts window. And I kind of like to show folks sometimes the other ways we can go about adding accounts as well. The Accounts plus minus in the upper left is the most common way that you can do that. But the way I'm going to show you here is another alternative way we can add accounts as well. So when we get to the chart of accounts, we can go right here to the tree view. I can right-click over Assets right here, and notice it says Add New Asset. Okay? So we're going to choose this method. So we're going to call this one Park National Checking. And then right here, I can see the assets behind it, so we're going to make this one, just in the interest of trying to keep it close to our current checking account, 110,102, and it's going to go into total current assets and investments, and we're going to click OK. And right here, see there on our left side in our chart of accounts, right here, we've got our new Park National Bank checking account right here, okay? So the asset is now set up in our chart of accounts to be used for whatever, whatever purposes, whether they're, for, bills and payments or, posting donations into or transferring payroll into it or what have you. It's there now in our chart of accounts. So step one on our document is taken care of, okay? So number two then is to move the money from the old asset account to the new asset account, okay? And again, whatever the reason that that's occurring, typically that's not going to be recorded as a bill or income. It's going to be a simple asset transfer. We're taking money from one of our existing accounts and moving it into the new account. So how we do that is we go close out of our chart of accounts, we go up to transactions here in the top left, and then right below that across the top center to transfer. Let me get out my highlighter again. Right here, transfer, okay? And that's going to allow us to then to move the money from the old account into our new account, okay? So we're going to click on transfer, and then it opens up our enter transfers window. We'll close out of our running balance window. And then here, again, as we do with every transaction in our accounting and in our books, we have to decide what date that's going to take place. So we'll say we are doing it now, this week. So we're going to do here, we're going to do our from account. So again, you would scroll down and choose the asset or type in and search for the asset account that you're wanting to take the money from. So in this case, it would be another asset, Huntington Bank checking. All right, and then we're going to come over here and we're going to type in Park. Or, if we backspace to clear that out, it's important to see that when we click on our once we've selected our from account in our transfer, it automatically requires that we select another asset account, in this case, to transfer the money to. So we're going to choose our Park National Bank checking. So right here, and then I'm going to enter the amount that we're going to be moving into the new account. So we're going to say we're going to make that $25,000. And then over here, notice I now have to choose a payment method. So one of the things I like to point out about this, folks, is notice pretty much all the standard payment methods that we would associate with paying a bill: manual check, computer check, cash, or EFT. So if I needed to print a check, I could go choose computer check, and then when I post this, it puts a check in my print queue for me to actually go and physically print a check, okay? So we're going to say that we're going to do this electronically today, and then, I would put in desired comments, then we're going to click on Add to Batch. I'm a big fan of using the Show Running Balance window up here, so if we click Show Running Balance, it shows now the effect that the transaction will have on the selected accounts. So we see here that our Huntington Bank checking is now started out with $54,000. It's reduced by $25,000. It shows its adjusted balance. The Park National account started with $0. It now shows an adjusted balance of $25,000, doing exactly what I want it to do, okay? This Show Running Balance window just ensures that the transactions are having the desired effect before I post anything. So I'm happy with that. So I'll close that, and we'll now go ahead and post. Asking me if I want to print a transaction report, we're going to click No. So step 2 of our report or document is done. We've now moved the money from the old checking account into the new checking account for at least whatever we're initially going to have for the time being. At some point, maybe when that old account we're done with the old Huntington account, we might transfer any remaining balance on a later date to eventually get that account to $0 once all, checks and deposits have cleared and what have you, and we're done with that account, okay? But step 2 is done. Step 3, set the new default checking account. So what that's referring to is when we go into special functions at the top, settings here in the upper left-hand corner. Let me get out my highlighter one more time. Right up here, settings, okay? So our settings option in the upper left corner, when we click on that, it opens up our accounting settings window. And then here where it says default asset account, so what that would mean is when I'm paying bills or when I'm entering income, it will populate automatically with the default account that I select here. So if this Park National account is going to become the new account for my bills and my payments, my transfers, or my payments and my income transactions, I'm going to change that right here to Park National. So there it is. And I now click OK. So now when I go to pay bills, it should just pop in with that Park National account. If this is warranted, folks, again, that's why we put if necessary in parentheses after the option number 3 on that line, on the option number 3 on the document. If, again, this is just a secondary checking, it's not going to become your new main account, don't need to do any of this, okay? It's all up to you, okay? So we're halfway through our document, so we're moving along pretty well here. So the fourth item here is now when we go to link donations, and this would be important that if my donations from, say today and beyond are now going to be deposited into my Park National checking account, I have to go up here to manage accounts, transactions, transfer donations across the top center. Let me get out my highlighter one more time. Transfer donations right up here, okay? So then we click on the transfer donations there, and then takes a few seconds, but then I'm here and I click on the tab called Default Account Links right here. And notice virtually all of my giving accounts are linked to my now old Huntington Bank checking account, my original one. So if my donations are now to be deposited into my Park National account, I would need to come in here and change all of these accounts to Park National. I'm sorry, folks, there's no en masse function that I can do to do a sweeping change here. Each one of these accounts has to be changed manually one by one. But this is the fastest and easiest place to do that. So once I just simply click down here and I just go through my entire list, change that, it saves it automatically. There's nothing to save, okay? So yeah, you've got to be cautious about what you're transferring retroactively to. So if you make this change, and this is what it talks about under the note at the bottom, item number 4 there is, if you've gone back in and items were originally transferred into my Huntington Bank checking account, okay, and I go back in and I make a correction, it's going to want to transfer those corrections back into my Huntington Bank checking. So if you need to pay attention to that, okay? So you have to make sure that if you're changing something in the past, what account is it going to wind up debiting when you transfer those corrections from donations into accounting? You want to make sure you're choosing the appropriate cash account that is being affected, and again, keeping your bank reconciliation in mind, okay? So it does point out you can make any accounting corrections that you need in accounting if you need to as well. Nothing says you have to transfer those corrections into accounting. You can always fix accounting manually. So I would just continue down this list and change this to the account as needed for any one of my giving accounts, okay? Number 5 here talks about linking payroll to your new checking account. So if I now go back and I launch my payroll module like I would normally, what I'll need to do here is I'll have to go into system administration and right here to account number setup, and right down at the bottom here I would have to choose my checking account right here and change that to my Park National account for everybody. I might even want to go to my set defaults and change that to my Park National account and click OK. And now I think I could click Apply Defaults. And as I go through, nope, I have to do that. So I have to go through and do this for each person. But again, you want to make sure that payroll is posting so those future payroll checks are being paid and posted from the new checking account if that's where your payroll is being paid from as well. Okay? Maybe you're obviously getting new check stock if it's a checking account with the new, routing and account number information on it. So again, you want to make sure payroll's in keeping with that as well. And finally, this really does, folks, is a really thorough way of dealing with all of the things you need to change when you're dealing with Church Windows accounting as it pertains to not only accounting but donations and payroll as well. But the final one is, I'm not going to keep those changes. We're going to go back into accounting one more time. So let's go back into accounting, and that talks about linking assets to funds, to applicable funds, if you use this, okay? So what we're talking about here is when we come into our manage accounts in the middle or manage accounts in view to open our chart of accounts, again, where we were earlier, we collapse all, we click the plus sign next to our funds to actually reveal our funds, okay? So if I click on something like my general operating fund balance, we notice over here on the right-hand side on our detail tab, we have a menu called Asset. So this is the closest that Church Windows accounting has to a linking of the assets to your subsequent funds. Folks, for all intents and purposes, the only thing that a fund and an asset in Church Windows ever really truly share in common is a balance. But we do have this function in the software that will allow you to say, okay, my general operating fund monies exclusively sit or reside in this particular asset or bank account, okay? Well, since I only moved $25,000 out of my general checking account into my Park National, this may not be something that helps me, okay? So, but if you do link your assets to your funds to your subsequent asset or tell the system which asset a fund sits in, you'll want to come in here and change this here. So yeah, you see right here under our building fund savings, what we've said is our building fund savings, building fund monies are sit and are stored or kept in our Fifth Third savings account always. And it's not part of it, it's all of it. Okay? I can only link one fund to one asset at any given time. So if my fund money is divided or sits in two different asset accounts, this may not be helpful. But this might be something that you need to come in and change or check too. This does have some limitations in terms of what it can do for you. Okay? If you have questions about that, please call us through technical support, 800-533-5227, and myself or any one of our technicians will be happy to talk through that with you. Okay? But that is the last section of our topic for the day today.